back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. It's Expresso right here on SABC3. Before we get into anything else, earlier this morning, we put a post up on our Facebook where we asked you, because it is one of the most important days as a country, South Africa, we are voting today. Don't you want to take a selfie wherever you are in the voting line? Send it to us. One viewer did that. Julia Quinning Pretorius says she is standing in the rain. And of course, this is in Pinehurst, ready to make their mark and vote. So thank you so much for that. You can keep them coming. We would love to see where you are, what the situation is like. Let us know what the vibe is like as you vote today.
Absolutely. Okay, right now, let's pick up the conversation with Eitan Stern, of course, in our legal segment called So Now What, where we discuss all kinds of manner of weird sides of the law, the unconventional stuff, eh? And today, of course, being the big day, the big voting day, we are focusing in on that and asking questions around voting, the legalities around voting, what to understand. So firstly, let's answer the question of, are you legally required to vote if you're older than 18 years old? Are you legally required?
Okay. So voting day, it is an amazing day, and actually voting is one of the main things that really separated the old South Africa from the new South Africa.
Yes.
And you know, if you think about it, back in 1994, you know, the country could have voted for the apartheid regime to stay, but you know, democracy was brought in, and we were able to, like, you know, suddenly choose our government.
And a whole bunch of people who weren't able to vote before now were able to vote, and now could make their voices heard.
Now make their voices heard. So this is like really the one thing that really made our country special and separated our country from the old countries. And you know, so it's a beautiful day that we all get to do this. So that to answer the question of who can vote, you have to be 18 years old, and you can't, you can't vote a day before you're 18 years old. You have to have reached 18 years old. Can you be forced to vote? No, you don't. You're not forced to vote in South Africa. Some countries do force you to vote. South Africa, you don't. You know, and you also can't be forced to vote under duress. So someone can't threaten you to vote. You can't be bribed to vote. But you also can't be prevented from voting. So you're not forced to vote. It really is your free choice whether to do it, but really hope that most people do.
Absolutely.
Is it still possible to vote if you have not registered, though?
Okay, so one of the beautiful things about our voting system, it's run by the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, and they monitor the whole thing very, very closely. So what you had to do in order to vote, you had to register, and that's how they manage their voters' roll, and that's how they stop voter fraud. So you would have had to register a couple of months ago, and that's one of the many systems that they put in place to make sure that our voting stays free and fair, which in South Africa, the one thing we can all be really, really proud of is that we have an incredibly free and fair voting system, and so you do need to have registered.
Yeah, no Russians or Poloni involved.
Exactly.
One of the things that I find common, people going like, I used to live in this area, and so a couple of years ago when I registered there, but now I've moved and I live in this area, so does that mean I can go vote in that area? So I guess the question is, do you have to go vote at the station or the voting station where you are registered?
Okay, so technically, so today you're going to be voting for two things. You're going to be voting for the national government, and you're going to be voting for your provincial government. So if you want to cast both those votes, then you need to be voting in at the station that you registered in. If for some reason you're not in that part of the country, then you can only vote for the national government. You can't vote in the provincial government. And if you are out the country for any reason, then you could have applied to be able to vote from out the country, in which case you would have voted for both, but that's all already closed and done. So if you registered to vote and you are not in the place where you registered, still go down to a voting station. You should be able to fill in a form. You should be able to cast your ballot for the national government.
Alrighty.
Good.
Well, we are talking to Eitan Stern this morning in our segment called So Now What? The question that I want to ask is, what if you're registered? What if you want to vote, but there's now an emergency and you cannot get to said voting station? So now what?
So now what? Okay. So the IEC took this...
Not now. Later. Later. Yeah.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Interesting conversations right now with Eitan Stern. It's National Voting Day. Very, very important elections going around. I was actually thinking, do you think the national constitution should be a subject at school?
Yes, 100%.
As in, from grade 1, or whenever you're able to read properly, the national constitution should be a subject, so that at the end of the day we understand who's to be held to account for what
Yeah,
when we're
100%.
making those X's.
It's one of these things, like what I was saying at the beginning, like, you know, the Constitution, your right to vote is enshrined in the Constitution, and it actually mentions it 3 times. It's that crucial to the country.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people's questions about what's going on in this country can actually be answered in this one beautiful little booklet that's freely available.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to know your rights, eh?
Country
Gotta
deep.
know your
Gotta know
rights.
your rights.
I wanted to know from you, let's say you are registered,
Yes.
You are planning to vote, but then you have an emergency that you
Okay.
cannot get around. What happens in a case like that?
Okay, so now what? So, you know, so if you can't, so the IEC has your back over here. If you can't get to the voting polls, then you can apply for a special ballot. And what happens? So, like, you know, if you're sick at home or you're pregnant and you can't get out the house, or, you know, so you can get a special ballot, and then an IEC official will come to you. You'll be able, they'll, you know, put the ballot, the marking on your thumb. You'll be able to fill out your ballot. It'll get sealed in 2 envelopes, and then it'll be taken to the ballot box. And you know, you'll be able to cast your ballot. But that happened yesterday and on Monday, so that's all already finished. But in future, it's very important for everyone to know, if you can't get to the polling stations, that you can apply for a special ballot.
Okay.
So what are the requirements for a voting station to be legal?
Okay, so now everyone today, hopefully everyone out there, unless you're under 18, is going to be going to vote. And, you know, today there are 26 million South Africans registered to vote, and there will be almost 23,000 voting stations around the country.
Sure.
When I came here this morning, it was dark and rainy, and there was already the IEC officials, you know, setting up in the rain and kind of doing their thing. And so each station is going to have a presiding officer and a voting officer, and their job is to manage the station. It's going to be open from 7 a.m., so it's already opened until 9 p.m. But if you arrive there, you know, before 9 p.m., you will still be allowed to vote. Let's say there's a really long line. They're not going to close it down at 9 p.m. You just had to have arrived before.
Okay.
And then at the voting station, they're going to have a whole lot of officials who their job is just to monitor this. So this might be people from different political parties who won't be there to campaign, but just to monitor the situation. So, you know, so no one can really do anything funny. So there's going to be lots of people around monitoring it.
Okay.
And the officials are going to get there in the morning. They're going to check that the ballot boxes are empty. They're going to show it to all the other officials. And then at the end of the day, they're going to show that the officers are going to close the ballot boxes around all the officials. So you've got a lot of people that are going to be monitoring each station to make sure that it's free and fair, and there's no funny business going on.
I also want to know, what do I do in the case of seeing something that is a little bit illegal, and I feel like my rights are being violated? What do I do in that kind of
For
situation?
sure. So it's crucial. You know, this election is kind of run by the people of South Africa. So even the IEC officials are not, you know, I don't think most of them are not paid for this. This is just people that are playing their constitutional or their democratic role in keeping this thing running. So if you see something out there, you got to say something. Go to one of the IEC officials, find whoever the presiding officer is at the station and tell them what you've seen. And if that doesn't work, make sure the story gets out there. If you've seen something and no one listened, make sure you go to the media. If it's true, no fake news. But make sure that if you see something, you are saying something.
Yeah. Wow. Super important stuff. Are political parties allowed to have a presence at the voting stations?
Okay, so the answer to that is no. Today, voting, you know, today is a day that all of South Africa gets together as one and votes. For the past couple of months, we've had electioneering and campaigning and speeches and posters. Today, it ends. You're not allowed to, there can't be any political activity, any campaigning, and the way you can engage in politics today is through voting. So at the stations, you cannot have anyone...
No chanting, don't bring boards and try and convince people of this and that.
Try to stay away from even blue, red, or green hoodies. You know? You dress perfectly
Just
to vote
be neutral.
Like today so many people are going to be judged by the color of their outfit. Like, if somebody's wearing a red tie, it doesn't mean anything significant. It's just the tie they had today. It's just the tie.
But it's a beautiful day, and it's an amazing thing that we all get to do this in South Africa and get to choose our next government. So if you are registered to vote, please vote. Ignore the rain. You know, if you you only have the right to complain about our government and to push South Africa if you contributed to the elections.
Very true.
100%. Enough said. The only voice that matters today is yours.
And
one voice, one vote.
It's going to be running the Department of Education. Consider that, hey, putting the Constitution as a subject into the curriculum. That might be something that could change a lot of things.
Gotta know your rights, eh?